because there's a reality that had a lot of kids playing baseball. So a lot of those families were if the audience up was full, and you had a stop us. So we got playing. That this year's on.
We weren't putting that in. That is nuts. No.
One thing was it rained twice, hitting total. So we didn't have
I was up in Chicago. My wife cooked and it missed it. Okay. Pretty much the whole time.
Okay.
Never like downpour, just enough to be annoying. I know Adrian got an email today. Ask him if he wants to share it. I'll get
You're like the old bus guys. Oh, you said I'm not.
Sure.
I'd like to bring the meeting to order and ask that roll be called.
Johnson.
Here.
Belton.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Holzhauser. Here. Tyra.
Here.
Wagenbach.
Here.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The board will now move on to public participation portion of the meeting. Dr. Dearman will begin with the superintendent's report. Dr. Dearman.
Okay. First thing I would like to start off with is a couple of recognitions. So the first one is a group recognition. Sandy Gay, I'll turn the floor over to our athletic director, Mr. Holmes. Thank you.
It's been a tremendous spring overall. Athletic teams, coaches, focused extremely well. I think we were 4 Mid-Illini champions in the spring, 3 regionals, a sectional, and a culminating state A and state championship a few weeks ago at Charleston, Illinois, East Illinois. If I could have Coach Carter come on up and Sandy come on up, I'd like to recognize you for in 2025 3A, right? 3A, took 5 feet, 8 inches, or 3/4, and became the I Just Say 3A state high jump champion. Let's give it up to Sandy again. And Sandy's only a junior, So we expect this ceremony to continue next year as well, in regards to her hard work, and she's dedicated to her teammates and to high school. Congratulations.
Our next recognition is for someone that really needs no introduction because everyone knows who she is. But I'll have Kate Castle introduce Pam Douglas.
Good evening. Sorry, short person. Okay. Good evening. Those of you who do not know Pam, Pam is the athletic secretary at Dunlap High School. Pam began her career at Dunlap High School in 1985. So Pam has been here for a minute. And Pam has worked for 7 different athletic directors at Dunlap High School. She also had a little stint at the district office when it was over at Willow Knolls. Pam was recently the recipient of the Illinois Athletic Directors Association Administrative Assistant of the Year. She was nominated by Dunlap High School former AD Brad Nichols, so she was given that recognition in May at their conference. Like Mr. Dr. Kierman said, you don't really need to introduce Pam. She is at everything. Not only does she do her job during the day, but she runs the ticket sales, she runs the clock, she's the libero tracker, and I can honestly say Pam is a diehard Eagles fan. So Pam will be retiring at the end of June here, but I just thought that Pam deserved this recognition for her recent award and for her many, many years at Dunlap High School. So thank you, Pam.
Yeah, if you want to check out now, it'll be a good time on that weekend.
Just curious what his difference was.
Okay, a couple other things. Thank you, Mr. Holmes, and Mr. Castle, for doing that. Construction update. Mike McKenzie and myself met with Ratio, that is the architect of record for Wild Wait, and they had 41 different questions that they needed information on to help guide their design process based upon our needs. It's kind of step one. Big thank you to the day that they were there. Mrs. Berg happened to be in the office that day, as well as Dr. Andrews, and they were instrumental in filling out that questionnaire. It was scheduled for a 3 to 4 hour meeting, and they're done in less than 2 with the information that they needed. So next steps are they're taking that, they're going to put some scenarios together, and then they're going to start working on the community engagement piece. So that part is rolling. Another update is with the training center. I've had a few interviews, it's been on the news, but Randy, can you pull that visual up on the computer, please? I think a picture's worth 1,000 words at some point. And this is an agenda item, we'll have more discussion later. This is just kind of visual to update where we're at. And a big thank you to Dr. Adrian and Steve Kerr for the work that they have done to basically get this done. So what that shows, thank you for zooming in. You see those 2 little triangle portions that have the slash marks in them? Those are the portions that we are swapping with the Lockhart family farm that's next door. And then that road that is built in there, that is the road we're going to design that will lead us directly into the high school parking lot. And then that little white section that encroaches upon the current road off Cedar Hills is the extension of the training center. So that kind of gives you the layout of what that will look like when the time comes. And again, there'll be more discussion about this later, but that's where we're at with it. We met with Estes, and they're working through those final drawings to get that mobilized, to get that ready. Dr. Adrian, any other further updates?
You're doing great.
Sounds good. We also, the board, after the last meeting, went down to the pool. There was some discussion about the condition of the pool. They wanted to see it firsthand, so Mr. Feldman and some other members went down there to look at it. Dr. Ader, could you provide a quick update on the pool?
Oh, yeah, so thank you for taking a look at the pool. I think I've sent it to you some photos in the past of our, some of the problems that we're having. There's some immediate cosmetic problems I'm gonna work with Dr. Dearman and Mr. McKenzie on getting fixed, the next several months. The ceiling, where there's HVAC units pulled out from a previous renovation, and that was never repaired properly. So we're gonna take care of that, some paint issues, just basically cosmetic stuff. And then we are looking to put a new roof on that facility here in the next year or two, so we're getting proposals on that. As far as functional is concerned, we are still expecting that permit from the health department to be here the first 2 weeks of July, and then we'll be able to, it's really a plug and play at that point. We've got the controller there, we just have to wait for that permit to make it, quote, legal, and our engineers won't do that until they have the health permit, understandably. So that's kind of what we're waiting on. I think Tim mentioned probably having an outside service look at potentially maintaining the chemical aspect of it. I'm not sure what services are available to do a public pool like this as far as within the school district, because as you know, we comply with the public health department, state board, and all that types of stuff. So we've got a little bit different compliance issues with that, but we're looking at any avenue to make that a little bit better. Currently, I don't think that's the problem right now. It's strictly a manufacturing problem. We continue to battle the HVAC unit out there. Those of you who are new on the board, it's almost something that's going to be brought up every other month. It's going to be one of those things where you're thinking, why can't this get fixed? It's truly an issue of manufacturing defect and poor workmanship on the part of the providers right now. So if I was in this position and you were in those positions, it'd be almost comical how often things go wrong with the same thing. So we work every week on trying to get answers to that. I do know that Farnsworth has a new engineer on the project, Wade Boss, who has been very diligent and holding people accountable. So I expect some good things to come from that. In fact, there's a meeting coming up this week with that group, and hopefully to address some of these issues. I hate to say it once and for all, but address some of the major issues. So it is an ongoing maintenance concern. We're doing the best we can. As complaints come in, we get to the right people so we can. We just kind of have to emerge with some things.
Thank you, Doc. Last, hate to end on a sour note, but for sharing, recent news, the governor's budget passed, and every news station I've watched, every paper I've read, has touted the fact that there was $307 million put into K-12 education through the evidence-based funding. Don't drink that too late. That is true. We did stick with the Vision 2020 plan and make that contribution into evidence-based funding, but what isn't being reported is the prorations that are happening. The DEA knows that we talked about this during negotiations, what's happening. What proration is, the best way to give it is to give an example. If you go over to Casey's and buy a pack of gum and say it's $1, and you look at the register, and cashier says you owe me $1, and you say, you know what, I know it costs $1, but I'm going to give you 79 cents. Here you go. Lay it on the counter and walk out with the gum. What's going to happen? Well, you're going to get some trouble because that's illegal. That's exactly what's happening with several different mandated categorical payments from the state. For example, transportation is already prorated at 79 cents. They know it costs us $1 to transport a student. They're giving us 79 cents of that dollar. Next year, that was this year. Next year, it's going to 73 cents. Special ed transportation. By the way, we're mandated to provide transportation. We can't cut that. It's required by law. This year, special ed transportation prorated 69%. Next year, 61%. And then private facility. That's where our students go to outside facilities. Those are rather expensive. Those are prorated right now at 77%. Next year, we did. Again, yes, money went into evidence-based funding, but it went in here, it came out over here. So the net effect, I asked Mr. McKenzie, what does that mean to our budget? What are the dollars? Again, it depends on our tier funding and where we land with that tier. And of that 307, how much are we going to get? But as it sits now, if these were to happen this year, it would have been between $250,000 and $300,000. So that gives you an idea of the impact of those prorations. And yes, the money went into evidence-based funding, but it got taken elsewhere. Just one board paper. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dearman. At this time, we'll move on to public comments. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? If so, please raise your hand. Okay, I see one hand. Come on up. Come to the mic. I'm going to read this Before addressing the board, I would like to remind you of our process per board policy 2230. We ask that when addressing the board, please identify yourself and be brief. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. The speaker is asked to please conduct oneself with respect and civility towards others. Individuals less than 18 years of age are permitted to address the board accompanied by his or her parent or guardian. The board typically does not engage in two-way conversations during the public portion of the meeting. Any follow-up response will be addressed by the administration at a later date. To be respectful of others and protect confidentiality, complaints against individuals, students, staff members, or board members, either named or unnamed, shall not be orally presented to the Board of Education. Such complaints should be put in writing, signed by the person or persons making charges, and delivered to the Board of Education Secretary. This time, I'd like to ask anyone who wishes to address the board to come forward, sign the public participation sheet, then speak, and speaker may come to the podium, begin speaking in the microphone. Please state your name and the topic that you'll be addressing.
My name is Jean Smith, and two very brief topics. One, follow-up on counselors at each of the schools. There was another person who was at basketball board meetings who made it known that there are not enough counselors for the number of schools in the Dunlap district. And I would just like to ask that be given serious consideration. Mental health for students is just as important as academics and physical health. And any coach will tell you that you can have 4 fine basketball courts, but if the kids' minds aren't in the game, their shots aren't going to fall. So I would hope that as much care and as much attention will be given to the mental health of all students as has been given to the physical education. Second, in your newsletter, congratulations on the new sports complex. Congratulations to all of those teachers who got awards. Of course, I know nothing about them. And congratulations on the STAR class that is coming. And I'm happy with the 5 students that are going to be coming back from residential to be at STAR. It just makes me extra sad that my daughter Susanna is continuing to languish at home. 4 years in Dunlap School District, she has received less than 2 years of education here, which means that Dunlap has been able to avoid over half of their responsibility to my child. Now, do you deserve congratulations for saving money or condemnation? I would like to read to you from the newsletter. This edition celebrates the incredible efforts of our students, staff, and families, and reflects on how we continue to live out our vision and mission to empower every student to succeed each day. Thank you for being an essential part of the Dunlap School District. Well, my daughter is a leper to you people, a pariah. She is not welcome here. I'm gonna print this off. I'm gonna put it in my medicine cabinet, because for me, this statement is better than serum of Ipecac.
Okay, thank you. This concludes the public participation portion of the meeting. The board will now move on to the information discussion items. The first item of business is a public hearing for the permanent transfer of fund balances from the working cash fund and the transportation fund. Could I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I move to open the public hearing.
Thank you, Andrew, and I need a second.
I'll second.
Youssef with a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Basham,
Not here.
Feldman,
Aye.
Hall,
Aye.
Olshauser,
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Young.
Aye. Okay, that motion carries at 6:18. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board regarding permanent transfer of fund balances from the working cash fund and the transportation fund? Okay, let the record show that no one chose to address the board. Could I have a motion to close the hearing?
I move to close the hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, Andrew and Tim. Is there any discussion? Tim.
Tim,
Yep, Tim, sorry. Any discussion? And roll call vote.
Feldman,
Aye.
Hall,
Aye.
Olshauser,
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Basham.
Aye.
Okay, 6:19. School activity reports have been included in the board packet. Are there any questions? Information regarding our current student activity fees has been included in the board packet. This was an item at the March 12th board meeting. It was tabled until now, the June meeting, for questions and discussion. I'll note that we also talked about it at the February meeting. We talked about it at the March meeting. And the reason why it got moved, just for context for the new members, the reason why it got moved out to June was because at the time of the March meeting, there was already registration occurring for the upcoming academic year. And so some people might have gotten caught up in the wash between the two. And so we just moved the topic forward. Tonight is just discussion on it. I know some information in the packet. There's also more information in past packets from February and March, which I think is helpful. And I mean, theoretically, we don't have to do anything until December, but we wanted to get it back on the calendar, and so I don't have anything prepared to speak on, but I know Tim had some comments prior, but I don't remember if Teresa or Andrew did, but that's what I wanted to say at the time. Have at it.
So when it was brought up at that time, we wanted to get a year's worth of data. So Mr. Holmes put that together. That was in the packet for the board's reference. So you have some data with that. The discussion kind of went back to 7 years ago when we brought lacrosse on and how those parents have been paying for themselves, and we made some adjustments at that time. At this time, I think at that time, the discussion was potentially to move the fee from $90 to $100 to take it back to where it was. With that, I think that is certainly a starting point. I think that Tim was looking at, so I'm not going to speak for Tim. He can speak for himself. The only thing that we had talked about potentially doing so much for the first fee, or so much for the first activity, so much for the second, so much for the third. Logistically, that's just going to be a nightmare to track. So we asked that the board please not do that, just for the administration and the tracking of it. If we were to make a change, I would suggest just an increase in the fee overall flat across the board. But that was the administration recommendation at that time. Admins, if I'm missing something, please chime in, but that's my recollection of the conversation.
So I guess my question is, so we've changed it to $100. Is that for computer programming class, and then the same fee applies to the athletic fees, or is there different rates for different levels of what the clubs are?
I'll let Katie speak to that.
Say that again, Tim, like, are there different fees for different classes? Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying? Yeah, like, we do have some classes that have course fees, but that's separate from the participation fee.
So those are all in addition to the participation fee, are these additional fees? So like accounting one and art foundations have another fee?
Correct, that's a course fee. Yeah, so that's completely separate from that. So if you take the accounting class, you have like, what is $15 or whatever that course fee is for the business.
So my question is, I mean, the athletics have no additional fee. They're $90 done, right? Football, basketball, soccer, all them big expense fees.
As far as what they pay the district, correct, yeah.
And they still might have to pay on their own for apparel or, I mean, like shoes obviously come to mind immediately, but there are some sports where all the equipment is not offered. Like lacrosse is the best example of that.
Yeah,
right? You don't get that in that.
I'm sorry they picked that project to be in, but I mean, I think they should pay more if they spend more.
I'm just telling you what happens, yeah.
So that's where I'm at in this. I'd like to see it raised for the ones that are spending $637, $643,000 here. They should pay a little more.
But, and just to clarify what you were asking before though, the activity fee as it is 90, I mean, we're talking about athletics and then you start talking about courses, but for the activities that are not athletic, but are within the activity like the chess club. I mean, that's an activity and that falls under the 90, but that's not a sport, but that's also in there too. So those kind of things are also in there.
For clubs.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
But Katie, isn't there a separate fee like for band? Or is that in the activity?
That's
fee?
an activity fee.
That is in the
So
activity
band
fee.
and chorus are also.
Those are included in that activity fee.
It's, I mean, anything where there's a paid sponsor, right? So like that's how we kind of did it with the clubs. There's an activity fee.
I guess
for that.
I
So includes sports and activity and then some of the other clubs.
And the list of fee schedules, so back in 14-15, the gold card, which is the athletic fee, and then all those course fees were added so we didn't have cutting of programs or sports or as much as they possibly could with that budget mitigation. So that full schedule of fees were compromised to keep those through that process. Because before then, Jason and I are fairly certain that before then we did not have athletic fees. So that's why all those fees were assessed and just have been continued since then to keep those programs or courses.
All this doesn't really matter in this coming year, Tim. They're set, we're charging people the fees. This is really an issue more for fall or next year.
Yeah, I know. You told me that a few months ago, and I don't want to miss it this time, so I'm going to keep going.
We already set the fees for next year. We already started collecting them. A lot of our families have already paid the fees for
I
next
understand.
year.
So we need to come up with a schedule that we present at another meeting, right? Is that what the next step is, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, yes, if there's going to be modifications to it, yes.
We bring those for information in November, December.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing. We kind of need to get it in the system in December so that we can get it in the course catalog.
At the lake, you can go see.
So what's it on there for today for it?
What's that?
Why are we talking today then?
Because at that meeting, I said I would bring it back in June.
Okay.
So I
You
made a
did.
promise.
We're trying to
Keep
satiate.
my word.
Okay.
Make sure we had that in time for you this time.
I'm just gonna make a comment, and I don't have that sheet, I didn't print it out, but I see what you have, I know what you have, Tim. So with several different classes, I don't know how many are on there, there's a specific fee for the class, right? Because there's supplies that are needed for that class, like for example, accounting, and whatever the supplies, maybe whatever that might be, right? And there's a fee because there's a cost that's associated with that class, right? So as I'm looking at this, almost $650,000, same thing you're looking at, Tim. So does it make sense to do this the same way? And, if you're gonna be in football, this is what it's gonna be. If you're gonna be in cross country, this is what it's gonna be, because there's such a variance here between what these cost. Like for example, dance, $8,900, right? Football, $103, basketball is gonna be around 50 for each one. So I don't know if you're thinking that way, Tim, or what your thoughts are there.
I feel like well, not to speak for you, but that might be really hard from a work standpoint to track all that, or no?
Well, they do it for all the classes.
Yeah, just to differentiate, maybe,
I guess we'll have to put some heads together. I mean, they have a fee for every one of these other clubs, so why can't we make football and basketball as a line on here?
Add to the list.
Just a thought.
I agree.
You know, in one of the information, the grouping, the packets that we got, I don't know if it was February or March, or even in this one, I can't recall, but, someone had a list of, here's what all the conference schools are doing. And I know that the world doesn't start and end with Mid-Illini, but it is curious to me that only like 3 of the schools in the conference have activity fees. I'm curious, I think that's right.
yes.
Ms. Caslett or Mr. Holmes, you guys know if those activity fees at those other couple schools, do they include both sports and activities the way we do, extracurricular, or is it just sports? That list that was on there.
So I understood it, we spoke at our last conference meeting about this, it was activities and athletics.
So it's both. But that's accurate though, only 3 of them.
Yeah, Canton charges 50, Morton charges 95, and we charge 90.
I don't think it's hard. Do you want me to put it on?
No, you don't have to. No, I just think that that's curious that we're, like Washington doesn't, but we do.
And I think something you gotta consider, we look at breakdowns of different fees, different sports. The ones like football, for example, we do make money on football, and it's a revenue sport because of the amount of people that comes in on Friday night. Basketball is attendance, it makes money. So, some of our sports go state admissions, and there is no revenue coming in. So we do have some sports that may take more money to operate, but do bring money in as well. And sessions to take costs, take so that's something to consider too as you bring those things down.
Yeah, I spoke about this in February and March. I don't really like the idea of raising the fees. I just know, having kids and activities, you always pay more out of pocket. You pay that 90 for each kid, but you're paying, at least we are. And I know it's your choice to do that, but I just hate to put up I don't want to discourage families and kids from being able to do activities because it's a big part of their development. It's a big part of their educational growing up process. So that's just where I stand on it.
All right, that's a good start. We got some time. Tim? All right, I'm gonna move on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or discussions regarding items on the consent agenda?
I would like to make a quick comment. You'll see the admin contract for Amelia Miller. That's Mandy's assistant. She's on a year-to-year contract. Should have been with the assistant principals, but she's not an assistant principal. I overlooked it, so I included it this month because she is on a year-to-year. She needs to know she's got a job.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dearman.
Work on yourself.
I'm supposed to be talking about it. We need a motion first here. Talking about it. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Teresa. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Nick. Now, any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Paul.
Aye.
Holzhauser.
Aye.
Tyra.
Aye.
Wagenbach.
Yeah.
Mann.
Aye.
Bowser.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye. Board will now move on to the action items. Bill list, treasurer's report, district investment report, and bank statements are included in the board packet. Can I have a motion to approve payment of the bills?
I'll move to approve payment of the bills.
Gotta keep going.
Sorry, in the amount of $4,871,307.63 as presented.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Andrew. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Olshauser,
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Wagenhoff,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Hall.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Information regarding the permanent transfer of funds included in the board packet. Could I have a motion to approve the permanent transfer of funds?
I move to approve the permanent transfer of funds as presented.
Andrew, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mick. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Tyra,
Aye.
Wagenhoff,
Aye.
Young, Armstrong,
Aye.
Feldman,
Aye.
Hall,
Aye.
Olshauser.
Aye.
Motion carries. Information regarding the real estate exchange agreement has been included in the board packet. Could I have a motion to approve the agreement?
I'll move to approve the agreement.
Okay, Mick, thank you. Is there a second?
Second to move to approve the agreement.
You set for the second. Is there any discussion?
I have a few questions, Tom.
Yep, Teresa?
My first question is, it says here in this resolution that the exchange parcel and the district exchange parcel are contiguous and of equal fair market value. Did we do an appraisal or a BOV, a broker's opinion of value or something? How do you define equal fair market value when one of these is 0.04 of an acre and the other one is 0.62?
Yeah, so I'll let Dr. Dearman, if he wants to comment on that, but I know that civil and legal were both involved in that. Go ahead, sir.
I'll take that punt and I'll punt it to Dr. Adrians. We talked on the phone earlier. He was instrumental in getting this done, so he gets first-hand knowledge.
So basically, land is what is worth whatever you're gonna pay for. I'm not sure why that fair market value is in there, but fair market value to us was having that access to that little piece of property and giving them a larger piece that has no value to us at this time. So really the value is continuing the project. So if they were willing to sell us more land, I think we would have probably paid more than the fair market value.
Can we remove that from this because we did not have an appraisal done and I don't know. To me, I work in real estate, right? Fair market value is what it is worth, right? I would have had a broker's opinion of value or something done for that 0.62 versus 0.04. There is a half-acre difference there, right?
They were willing to give us the minimum amount of property to allow us to continue our project. And in return, they wanted to square off their property and keep it clean. So we were really meeting their demand at that point.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I get that. But if we would have an appraiser come in and appraise 0.62 and 0.04, would you agree with me that there's going to be a difference?
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm asking there, you know, in this, so that's that piece of it. The next one, I just need to understand section 3 and section 4. Unilaterally giving the board president the discretion to approve the exchange agreement. Is there a rush? Is there something unresolved here that the board could not see this agreement prior to it being approved? This is the resolution.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that language is in there to allow the president to make the smaller decisions based around the holistic concept of the agreement, because we are under the gun to finalize that, and we are still waiting on legal descriptions for the property.
Understood.
So the survey is being done, but in order to close on the property, as you know, you have to have a legal description for it, and that's what they're currently working on. So once those legal descriptions are in there, and the final details are worked out, then we can put that in the description to close, and hopefully close as soon as possible.
Do we have that exchange agreement already written up with the exception of the legal description? Is the exchange agreement already created, the draft, with the exception of the legal description?
No, that's our agreement right there in place.
This is a resolution.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Right. And we agreed on big terms, both attorneys have talked about it, they felt comfortable with it, so.
Is there a way we could see that before, when it's finalized, so the board, is it going to be that quick of a turnaround, like within
It's going to be that quick.
days?
Well, yeah, just so we can get going on the keep the project moving.
I understand that, but is there a reason why the board can't see this prior? I mean, you could either send an email, whatever, so we could take a look at that.
Well, we've done this in the past, and we did it actually within the last year. So this is not
Within the last year for what? For which one?
where we've taken a pragmatic approach, and we've come up with a resolution, so that way the board president could act on the board's behalf to be sensitive to time and the project, or at the time, the item that was before the board, so that we could keep it moving forward. So we have done this very recently, actually.
Okay, we can continue on.
Well, I want to make sure I answered the question. And we did this months ago, I think it was July, where we entrusted the board president at the time for the bond matter as it pertained to Wilder Wait, and it was it'd be 35 million or 40 million or whatever it was, and we did the exact same thing. So it's not like something that we've done.
It's something different. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, it's a lot less than that. So.
I don't think there's a problem once we get this finalized to email it to the board for everybody to see. I mean, there's going to be no surprises in there that I'm aware of.
That's all I'm asking.
And then we can ask, at that time, if the fair market value statement can legally be taken out there and what the ramifications of that are. I don't think it's a problem.
Correct.
So honestly, I don't want to use fear as an ambiguous term, but it was work with the landowner, and he's pretty sturdy, the landowner himself. These are the terms that we could generally agree upon, that there's not going to be any major changes. And there's a few concessions in there to solve. So
I completely understand, an agreement that this needs to be, to make that project work. I get that 100%. My concern is the language in this agreement, so I think we can move on, but thank you for that.
All right, we have a motion and a second as presented. Any other discussion?
Tom, if I could, I would just like to compliment Dr. Egan on getting this done. I think this is a tremendous move forward for the district, in particular for the high school to have that other entrance and be able to complete this project in a timely way. So I just think that he deserves some kudos for that.
Absolutely.
All right. I appreciate that. I just want you to remember that when we get called about that entrance being closed, we're going to have to ask for a lot of grace from our public, but know that it's going to be worth the wait. So I think that you guys will be very proud of that building. Once it's constructed and you cut that ribbon, you'll be very happy.
So what do you mean being closed? You're closing Cereal's entrance for a while they build it?
Oh, yeah.
There will be no entrance over there?
No. There will not be an entrance over there for a period of time.
What's the timeline on no entrance?
There's no timeline currently on that.
You don't have a schedule?
We are now at the mercy of the landowner who has pulled all the cars, and he has a very busy schedule. So we're just going to have to do our best with it.
Any other discussion or kudos or whatever you said? Okay, roll call vote, Miranda?
Young.
Aye.
Bowstrom.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Hall.
Aye.
Olshauser.
Based on the language, no.
Tyra.
Aye.
Wagonbach.
Aye.
Okay, this concludes the action items portion of the meeting. Going to, could I have a motion to move into, a motion to return into closed session? Now remember though, we're doing this where we're only going into closed session for the things that we cite. So I need board members to tell me which items they'd like to discuss.
I've asked Mick to make a motion for A and G.
A
On my behalf.
and G. Any others gonna pop up? We need to,
Mick just needs to read it.
do we need to comment on D? Want to give an update on that?
There's no update.
Okay, Mick?
I'd like to adjourn to closed session for the following purposes as stated in the Open Meetings Act: the appointment, employment, compensation, and performance of specific employees, as well as litigation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the time is 6:43.
Dr. Andrews, who else do you need?
That's it.
Thinks people on plastic drives over their own truck. So is that big? Okay, are we on? Yes.
Miranda, we good?
Yes.
Okay.
Could I have a motion to return to open session?
I'll move to return to open session.
Drew, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Nick, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Time is 7:13. Could I have a motion to approve the human resource consent agenda?
I move to approve the human resources consent agenda as presented.
So thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Andrew, any discussion? Roll call vote.
Feldman,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Holzhauser,
Aye.
Tyra,
Aye.
Wackenbach, Young,
Aye.
Bowser.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Yusuf. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mick, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, time is also 7:13. Thank you.